What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mike Check podcast presented by Around the Block Sports Network. It's good to be back. It's good to be back to be joined by Sam, as always. Sam, how are we feeling, buddy?
We're feeling pretty good today.
Yeah,
Our
I
hockey's
will say before we start,
Mm,
the mustache is looking phenomenal.
appreciate you.
I'm liking it. It's like we're
Yeah.
almost in play. I mean, Movember, right?
Yeah, we're getting there. Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, man, hockey's going on. Really good games.
Great
Obviously, we're
game.
starting to see teams develop
Mhm.
and, certain players starting to break out. This is usually the time frame that it starts to happen. And man, some teams are in some real bad positions. Some teams are in really good positions. Um, I mean, let's look at the winners first, right? I
Yes.
mean, where do you want to go to first?
Let's start with Vegas Golden Knights. I think,
Love
coming
them.
off the Stanley Cup, it's pretty easy for you to just assume you're going to pick up where you left off. But those playoff runs can be really, really draining. You see it with the Panthers. Now they're down their two probably best defensemen just to start the year. Sam Bennett also down to start the year. It's really easy for teams post a long playoff run in hockey to start off slow, to only kind of rest for the playoffs. It happens all the time. But Vegas has been doing the exact opposite. They came out with a team with a lot to prove almost, came out with tons of swag, tons of just absolute energy, and their defense that has caused so many problems for all these teams is just picking up where they left off. I think it's really interesting to see so far.
Yeah, and obviously when you go out and win a cup, I mean, to me, that's circled on everybody's calendar. It's we
Hmm.
got the defending cup champions coming into our building, or we're going to their building. It's you definitely a team. If you can compete with them, if you're like one of those lower level teams, if you can compete with them, that's a win, right? And we've seen some tremendous downfalls from previous cup teams where the following year they're just not the same, obviously because they lose pieces, whatever it may be. But like you're saying, their guys are still there from last year, their main core, and
Hmm.
they're producing high. And the thing about Vegas, I've always said, is they're so fine tuned and well spread out in their depth chart that it's like they don't need a star player. Obviously, they did need some key pieces to go win the cup, but you're getting production from everybody on this team. It's not like they're I guess the ideology in the locker room is just because you're a fourth line guy doesn't mean you can only get away with 90% during your shifts.
Hmm.
Everybody's putting their foot down when they go out on that ice and play, and they dominate.
Yeah, they definitely do. And I think what you really like to see from a team like this is that they don't grow stale of each other. I think that's very possible with these veteran teams, is once they sort of get to that peak, that mountaintop, it doesn't hit the same with the same intensity. So it's going to be interesting to see throughout the year if they can sustain this. One thing I would like to look for is how Mark Stone progresses throughout the year. Obviously, he had those pretty bad back problems late in those playoffs. Those don't just go away. And I think underlying his numbers have been a little less than stellar. Maybe it's because he's getting a lot of time in the defensive zone because they love using him as that defensive forward. But I think it's something to monitor going forward just to see if age is sort of catching up to him, and maybe those numbers. He has 2 goals, 5 assists, and so 7 points in 10 games. See if that starts to tail off a little bit as we go
Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
because
Well,
he's so important to them.
I guess the other thing that we can circle back and look at too is I think I'm looking right now on the roster.
Hmm.
There is only 4 players who have not scored a goal
Ah,
this year. That
it's
is incredible.
depth scoring.
That is beyond depth scoring. I mean, a bunch of guys still have 1 goal, whatever it may be, and obviously they're 10 games into their season. But how many teams out there in the NHL right now can you list that only have, I would even say 6? Let's say they have 6 players that haven't had a goal yet this season. Like,
Hmm.
you're getting depth scoring. And the other thing is, too, your guys who went off in the playoffs. I mean, a guy like Alec Martinez, right? I mean, he was a really good piece, just to get through and, just with his history, he's going to produce valuable points in the playoffs, whatever it may be. That's a guy who's on the lower end of points so far this season. That's fine. He's an older veteran guy. Also, too, I mean, you go and look at their MVP from last year in Marchessault. He's only got 5 points on the season. He's got 10 games under his belt. If that was your MVP last year and won you the cup, and he's only got 5 points in 10 games, that means the entire team around you is playing at high pace and know their role. That's what I love. And I don't see really, I can't see them crashing down. Even if they go through a hard stretch, say they lose, I don't know, 3 games in a span of 6, they're going to bounce right back and get right back to where they were. This team seems unstoppable once again. I know it's early.
One more point on Vegas for you specifically.
Yeah.
Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
Are we ready to admit that he is?
He's good. He's good. Yeah. I never listen for the record. I never said Jack Eichel wasn't good. I personally said he isn't the guy to take a struggling franchise and put all the weight on his shoulders. He's not ready for that. He's got some really good sporting cast around him in Vegas. But I give credit where credit is due. The guy's playing unbelievable right now. He's got 10 points in 10 games, 3 goals, 7 assists. He's doing what he has to do right now. He's right now in a position on this roster, on this team, where he doesn't have to worry about taking care of everybody else on the roster, and that's making him play better. So we're finally going to see a season where Jack Eichel might get you like 100-something points because he is in a successful place to do so. And let's be real, guys, he's one of the best American hockey players in the entire world.
What is his highest point season? Do you know?
If I recall, he's been over a point per game player, definitely in the 90s before with Buffalo. I don't think he ever
points per game in 2019.
Only 82? And now he didn't play the full season that year, did he?
Let me check.
I don't think he did.
Yeah,
was close to 90.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Either way, I mean, for a franchise that has been struggling like the Sabres, yeah, of course, I'd go out and be like, hey, he's a top player in the league, top center in the league, no doubt. I just didn't like him for other reasons. But one more time, he's playing great right now. Love how he plays the game. Love how he's able to get from point A to point B so fast and make it look effortless. Everybody wants a Jack Eichel on their team.
Absolutely. Good player to have for any roster. Should we move on to our second winner right now?
Yeah, I say so. Yeah. Let's go on over to, I believe, Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're – all right. Didn't really see this coming just because I feel like just with the departure of some pieces they lost last year, I thought that this team – I would say the more skillful and leadership roles they have come from younger kids on this team. I didn't think they were ready to make the leap forward, but apparently they are, and they're playing well. Obviously, a lot of things can happen as we get into the month of November. This team could start struggling, but from what I've seen is this team knows how to rally, and they score goals. Let's be real. They know how to score. Goals. They score goals. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from Vancouver. What are your thoughts?
I'm skeptical. We see this story all the time with Vancouver. I mean, they have so much talent on the top end, right? With Pedersen and Quinn Hughes and Brock Besser. All these guys are so good, and we know these are good. But I mean, they never have. Well, they've yet to sustain this for a whole season, and it's not like these guys are getting changed out all the time. These are the same guys. Maybe they finally have taken the leap. I mean, Pedersen has 16 points so far in the year. He's been amazing. And Thatcher Demko and Nets, same thing. He's been awesome so far this year. I just think that they're one of those teams that with this core, they don't have the ability to sustain it for 82 games.
Yeah, I can see that. And that's why I said this upcoming month, it could flip very, very fast. But I'm right now seeing production outside of their top 3 point getters. I'm
Yeah.
seeing production from these guys where it's sustainable. I still want to see a little bit more from their depth players. They're going to come there's going to be times where their top guys are just being taken out by their
Mhm.
opponent for the night. Can their bottom 6 lift them forward? And I think there's going to be opportunities to do so. Defensively, they scare me a little bit. I think they can tighten up on the defensive side here and there. Obviously, I think, like you said, the goaltending has been pretty solid for what this team has had in
Yeah.
the past. Demko
Mhm.
looking really good. They
Maybe, could
don't
be.
obviously DeSmith. I think he's what started
Just a few.
3, 4 games, a few games here and there,
Mhm.
and he still produced wins, which is great. Uh, Save percentage could be a little bit better, obviously down the road, but I think really what it comes down to, Vancouver will stay a good team if their bottom 6 knows how to play defense.
That's a very fair qualification.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I think they can go out and worry about trying to score, but if their bottom 6 doesn't know how to if they're in their own zone for they're on the PK, and after a PK expires, they're still just getting hounded in their own zone.
Mhm.
They need to find ways to break it out and not put their goalie in high situations where they need to come out and save the day. Bottom 6 is going to need to win games for this team going forward. I don't necessarily know if they can do that throughout an 82 game season, but as of right now, I like their odds. I really do.
Yeah, I see that entirely. I mean, if they could just round out that team a little bit, it would be a huge thing. I worry about how much they have to play Tyler Myers at this point. I think
Yeah.
they're relying on him a ton. The good news is Philip Hronik, not bad. That was a much maligned trade last year, but he's been pretty good so far for them. So even though they gave up that first, it looks to be a little bit advantageous for them. So
Yeah.
that's great news.
Yeah. I like to mention that you brought up Tyler Myers there.
Mhm.
Obviously, very old veteran guy in this league now. Can be a skillful defenseman at times and really produce you some serious points for being, just a taller guy, not really one who's going to outskate you, especially in this day and age of hockey. But I think he's really understood his role the past 5 years of being
Mhm.
trying to be that defenseman, to be playing both sides of the ice very well and consistent. I think that's fine. I just don't know how long he's going to be able to maintain that. Obviously, the one thing that scares me, and this goes for everybody on the roster, they could be 1 or 2 injuries away from a downfall.
Definitely.
And that's where my whole case for that bottom 6 needs to step up. If this team loses one of their top 6 guys, like that, it could snap, and we're looking at, the Vancouver Canucks towards the middle pack bottom like they've been in the past couple years.
They remind me very much of those Panthers teams from the mid 2010s with Huberdeau and
Yeah.
Barkov as young players. They were just always close to that playoff picture and could never quite get around the hump because their depth could not keep up with them. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm just scarred from that kind of team. I think that even though they can go on hot runs, in the end it's tough.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. And
Mhm.
obviously, like I said, this team does not want to be one of the losers, especially for having such a hot start. So it's going to be tricky for them to maintain their success. But from the way that the rest of the NHL looks right now, there are some teams that are at the bottom that shouldn't be at the bottom, and
Mhm.
it's getting ugly pretty fast.
Yeah,
If you want to switch over, we can
let's
go
do
into
that.
some bottom feeders right now, guys.
Oh man.
Let's go right over to Calgary because
All right.
they are not looking good, guys. They're not looking good at all. If I was to say anything right now, is they, 2-7-1,
Oof.
2-7-1 for a team that has Lindholm, Huberdeau, even getting Kadri, like just
Mhm.
solid guys that can produce you points, know how to play the game at a high paced level. They're struggling so much right now. And obviously we can go right to the bottom of the list and take a look at their goaltending. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But how can a goaltender get hot when the rest of your roster is not producing at a high level?
I mean, it seems like forever ago we thought they salvaged their entire franchise when they lost Kachuk and Gaudreau.
Yeah.
2 seasons ago, we thought, wow, they saved them by signing Kadri and getting Huberdeau and Uyghur back in that trade.
Yeah.
And, since then, I mean, last year was disappointing. This year, it's like they've fallen off a cliff. Obviously, they lost some more pieces over the offseason, like Foley and all these guys who are rounding out that team. But, I mean, it looks so bad. I mean, Huberdeau, you look at the guy that they gave an 8x10 to kicking in, or 8x11 kicking in this year. He has 1 point on the power play in their last 9 games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rough right now. And you think Kadri also signed 7 more years. They may be stuck in like this limbo for a while here.
Yeah. It doesn't look good. And, I'm pulling up their schedule right now of their past 4 games they've had. They lose to Dallas at home, 4-3, 1-goal game there.
Okay.
They get destroyed by the Oilers 5-2.
Oof.
They get shut out by the Blues 3-0. Like 3-1 to the Rangers too at home. I know the Rangers are a good team, but you got to produce more than just 1 goal in your own building. I mean, in a span of 2 home games right there, you've only had 1 goal. It's mind-boggling to me because, like the players we've mentioned already, on their top line, they need to produce more, or at least get these younger guys fired up and ready to play. It seems like right now they're lost. They have no identity whatsoever. It seems like everybody's pointing fingers over there, and that's not a good thing for the locker room. I don't see them overcoming this at all. I think they will be bottom 5 by the end of the year. Man, those contracts are going to look bad.
Oh,
they're going to look bad. I'm thinking dark times here. They might have to start shipping people out in the next 2 years, maybe even this year. They might have to start shipping people out.
Some guys that are definitely probably on the move for them if they don't turn it around. Rasmus Anderson.
Yep.
Noah Hannafin.
Mm-hmm.
I think those 2 guys for certain are on the outside looking in terms of past this year for them. I would think they might try to move Huberdeau and Kadri and Uyghur, but there's so much term left on guys that aren't performing. That's a concern. I don't know. I mean, if you don't even get up for the Battle of Alberta in Calgary, the team is broken. I think they don't have the guys that energize or invigorate these guys around Elias Lindholm. I think there's too much on Elias Lindholm's plate, a guy that we all like here, but this is a bit much when Huberdeau and Kadri just aren't producing at all.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And if I was to ask you this, who's responsible if there is to be a change in pace, a change in mood in the locker room? Who are you pointing your finger at to be like, you got to lead these guys. You got to step it up and just be like, guys, it's turned around now, or guess what? So-and-so is getting traded. This organization is going downhill. You're not going to be able to play many NHL games here for guys that are trying to come up through their farm team because they just have no direction. I mean, they've lost a lot of draft picks in the past couple of years too. So, I mean, who do you throw this on? Obviously you can say Huberdeau.
Mikael Backlund is their captain now.
He is.
Something.
But I'm looking at Huberdeau just for a guy who's had so much success in his career. Has come from a Florida Panthers team that was very hot. Obviously did so much for that organization, saw the bad times, got to see the good times as it was changing. That's the guy I'm going to. He's seen it all. He's seen the ups and downs in the locker room in Florida. So why not Huberdeau to be the guy to stand up and get these guys on their toes and be like, let's get ready to play?
there's a case for him, especially being the guy that's making the most money on that team by far. There's definitely a case there as a guy they brought in to be a veteran presence at this point. I would look at Elias Lindholm, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's, I think, by far their best player, at least playing like their best player right now. I think that you look at him and the production's still there, but the team isn't producing. I would look to that guy and say, listen, you're getting your points and that's great, but
Yeah.
you're not leading the team to wins. So what
Yeah.
needs to change for you and what needs to change for the rest of the guys to sort of flip that switch around, you know?
Yeah. And I'll throw another name out there that's probably not on anybody's radar. I'm going to go with Nikita Zadorov
Hmm.
just because of the physical presence he brings in to the game. Nobody likes to play against Zadorov just because of how physical he gets, how nasty he can be. Set the tone. Make it early in the game. Set the tone for the boys and be like, go for a big hit, start a fight, start yapping. At least start yapping against your opponents and be like, yeah, we may be at the bottom, but get inside these guys' heads. If you see that from a veteran defenseman who's always throwing his body out on the line every single night, hopefully some other guys take notice of that and start to step up their game, at least play with a little bit more passion.
Yeah. This is gonna sound silly, but what about Jacob Markstrom? What happened to that guy? How did
I
I mean, that was
feel
a quick decline.
here's the thing. Do you think Markstrom do you think this is where his game is truly at right now? Do you think he's a point, what is it, 0.897 save percentage guy? Do you think he's the guy who allows 3 goals a game, has 1 win, 6 losses, 1 loss in overtime? Do you think he's actually still that player, or do you think it's something in this organization that's really bringing him down?
It was what, 2 years ago where he was a Vezina finalist. I mean,
Yeah,
it's it's hard for me to believe that guy's gone.
yeah,
That is seems so far fetched because of how quickly. But I haven't seen it in so long. I don't know what's going to bring him back. It's not the team around him.
yeah, I know, and it, like I said, because there's no scoring going on with this team, it doesn't matter if he plays the lights out right now. It doesn't matter. Like, obviously, he's not going to go on a run and let up 3 goals in a span of 4 games. Like, you don't even see that from our top goalies in the league right now.
Mhm.
Like, even if he did that and he played the best to his ability, there is no offensive production coming from Calgary. So there's probably some, I don't know, some type of doubt in his mind where it's like, what's the point right now? You
Yeah,
know?
definitely see that. I could see him being dealt at the deadline to a competitive team. Maybe that revitalizes him. But in this situation, there's no way.
Do we know what his contract is looking like right now?
I can look that up for you right now.
Because
But
that's
if
the
you
other
remember
thing too. I mean, it comes down to contract and will teams want to take on a contract of a goaltender who was so high, was a Vesna finalist, and then all of a sudden right now is, at least on this roster, looks terrible. Like,
yeah,
terrible. I don't think people are going to want to go and spend draft picks to go and get a guy like this. He
it's
might
six
want to be
million
rescued.
dollars for 3 more years.
3 more years at 6 mil. I mean,
It's a starting goaltender's money.
it is. It is. And man, just from what I've seen in the past, that dude can play. He can
Yeah.
play.
Mhm.
Um, man, it seems like you got so many key players on this team right now that are in the older age or under a contract of a starting goaltender, and they just can't figure it out. And that's a ticking time bomb
Yeah.
because if you don't figure it out, all it takes is one person in that group to be like, I'm out, and then everybody wants out.
Mhm. I mean, they
If
have a
that's
lot
a,
of expiring contracts. That's the good news. Besides their big three anchors, we'll call
yeah,
them. A lot of their dudes are up this year. Zadorov, Hannafin. So they could have some money to move around. They're not.
yeah,
It could be worse, I guess.
could be. I don't see them getting them turning it around though relatively soon. So I think, I don't know. I mean,
Lindholm's
prepare
up
for
after this year too, and we'll see.
Calgary, I'm sorry. Prepare for dark times.
Oy, oy, oy.
Trust me, I've been there. All right, let's get into our last team here of the evening, and that's the Pittsburgh Penguins.
This is an interesting one.
Now, I think if I recall, I was saying Pittsburgh can be good, but what are the odds of them actually being good this year? I mean, yes, they've got Crosby, they've got Malkin, they've got Erik Karlsson there now. Older guy, but still unbelievable season last year. How could it be so bad, right? How could you have a bad team with those 3 stars? It's bad. It's bad, guys. I mean, 3-6 on the season. Also, just not necessarily getting it done at home. Let's talk about the last 4 games they've had have all been at home, and they're 1-3. Not good.
Not good.
Not good, especially for one of the greatest to ever play the game in Sidney Crosby, being your captain there. You would never think that a Pittsburgh Penguins team could be this bad into a start.
Yeah, it's a rough start. I'd be concerned, but you know what? I'm watching them. I'm looking at underlying numbers. I would buy all the Pittsburgh stock available right now. I think they're inches away from an explosion here.
Oh, man.
I think they're this close to turning it around, rattling off 8 or 9 in a row. I think they're good.
Really?
Good.
Really?
I think this is a slow start. I think Tristan Jarry's been really rough. They've lost a lot of games they shouldn't have, but the talent is there. That top 6 is great. It's Sidney Crosby. I mean, what are we talking about?
It's great. Your star players there are good, as in Crosby, Malkin, Karlsson's doing decent right now.
Gensel.
Gensel's doing good. Yes, they're doing fine, but they just cannot finish games. They can't right now.
No, they've dropped a lot of games that are dumb games that they shouldn't have dropped. They've lost twice to Chicago. What are we doing?
Pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Those are bad losses.
And obviously, right now, this is a veteran team, so they've been through bad slides before. And if you're to bet on anyone, you're going to be like, yeah, of course they're going to be able to turn it around. They're veteran guys. They know how to do it. Not this particular group in my eyes, though. I mean, Malkin is looking stiff out there now. Yes, he's performing good right now. He's got good points. I think he's got 11 points in 9 games. So he's over a point per player. I don't think he's going to sustain it. We've seen what he's done the past couple years and just how the age is starting to get to him, at least in my eyes, I believe so. Crosby's going to be Crosby. He'll be great. He'll be able to get you points. He'll score high all season long because he's Sidney Crosby. Jake Gensel, younger guy.
Awesome.
Yes, doing great. Some of these older guys, though, I don't know if they're going to be able to really just continue at the high pace of just this new league, this new game we're in. Because the good teams all have young talent, and I'm talking young talent as in the ages of 30 down to about, 22 years old?
Yeah.
They're flying. They're flying. They would skate circles around the Penguins right now. I don't think, speed-wise, they'd be able to keep up. I really don't.
I just there's old teams that are over the hill and it's it looks done. That's like Washington right now. Washington looks rough. Alex Ovechkin just trying to get his goal scoring record. It's nothing.
It's sad, but it's awesome because obviously you want to see the goal scoring from Ovi, but it's very sad over there in Washington. Yeah.
I don't think this is that. I think this is a veteran team biding its time. I mean, look at their bottom 6. They have Jeff Carter, Nola Chari, and all these guys that are so good still. I mean, there's so much talent. Liam O'Connor on the blue line. They have a bunch of depth too. And I think it's just a matter of time before, some of these guys, they aren't scoring right now. Inevitably, I don't think Jeff Carter has a point yet. I think it's a matter of time. I think if I'm betting on anybody, I'm betting on Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. Yeah,
Could.
like I said, I'm not gonna talk down on Sid the Kid because
Right.
he's Sid the Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at this team, they're big names on this team, huge names, great organization to play in Pittsburgh. I do not see them adapting to the high speed game that is hockey right now. I don't see them. The way they're going to win hockey games is just pulling out old school tactics and having it work against an inexperienced team, in my opinion. Yes, they may go on a run like throughout the season where maybe they win 4 in a row. I don't think they'll win 8 in a row. I don't think they'll get to a 6 in a row this season. I think they're going to be mid-pack guys. And for a roster with this high talent depth, that's not good enough. It's not good enough in my opinion. I personally don't see it coming through.
What if they get rid of Sullivan? They get a new coach in there.
I think that would be a really
Would
good
that change it?
start. I think that'd be a really good start. I think, listen, I think more often than not, you'll see coaches when they win so early into their coaching career, like Sullivan did, they stick to those tactics. I mean, for God's sakes, they won back-to-back cups, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Why would you change anything? The game has changed. Even just the past 3 years has changed drastically in how it's played, how entering with the puck in over the boards, getting different angles, and it's all surrounded by speed. They don't
They
have speed.
invented that. Man.
They don't have
Invented
speed.
that game
They
back
don't
in
have
the day.
speed. Penguins don't have speed. They
Yeah.
don't. I think they're going to be skated around by a lot of teams down the road here. I think they'll win some games. Like I said, I'm not downing them. I don't think, let me put it this way. They will not finish in the bottom of the league. They'll
But
be
can they get a
around
wild
they'll
card?
they'll be around playoff hunt like for a little bit, but then they'll bite off.
Mm-hmm. I think they get in.
You think they're gonna be a
I,
playoff
I
team?
think they get a wild card. Yeah,
Wow.
I
Dude,
do.
that's wild to me. That
I
is,
see it.
maybe we'll throw a little friendly wager on this one.
I'm not against it.
I I'd be down. I'd be down. Really?
Yeah, I think they make the playoffs.
Over who? I mean,
We can
I'll,
assume
I'll,
it's
I'll take time to do this right now. I'll
okay.
take time to do this. Let's pull up the
So assume 4 and
standings
4
right
for
now.
now. Just
Yeah.
4 Metro, 4 Atlantic. I would say
I'm pulling up the wild card, all that stuff right now as we speak. I think okay, so
who can we say for sure
that's gonna drop from the
Devils-
Metro.
that's getting in from the Metro for sure?
Rangers and
Devils,
Carolina
Rangers,
by
Devils,
far.
Hurricanes.
Yeah, Devils and Hurricanes. Those will be your top three.
Yes.
Islanders will drop out of there, but they're going to be competitive. They're going to be competitive. They'll be in that hunt.
It's pretty much between the Islanders and Pittsburgh, and I think Bo Horvat cools off and give me Pittsburgh.
So the way I see it too, you got to look at the Eastern too as well, because if we're going to be looking at the wild card, Boston, they're great. They're going to be there. I don't know why we didn't talk about them. They're actually phenomenal.
They're so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shocker. I don't think Detroit, we'll see. I kind of have hope for them. Montreal, I don't know how they're doing what they're doing, but they're doing it. I think they'll drop at some point, personally. That being said, Toronto will move up. Like you said, New Jersey will move up. I think Florida is going to move up. Tampa.
Are we there?
Tampa's wild card team.
Wow. You think Tampa's one of the
wild card? Or, I mean, all right, they're not going to win the division.
So
they're not going to win the division.
Boston, Toronto, Florida, you would think get the 3 in whatever order. Tampa and Buffalo, you think both or one?
I'll say this right now.
Mhm.
Panthers, Tampa, Buffalo, all above Pittsburgh. And they're going to be fighting for a wild card.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of wild card spots.
New Jersey will move up. Toronto will move up into their respective division standings.
Mhm.
So those teams that I think are going to be fighting for the wild card, I don't see them overcoming a team like Tampa. I don't see them overcoming a team like Florida. I think the Sabres, I know I'm biased and all, they've started to put it together after having a really bad start. They're now
Mhm.
500. They're coming back. I mean,
Florida's
obviously
playoffs.
Columbus is not good. Capitals are not good.
No,
Flyers aren't good. Senators aren't good.
no. I think Florida makes the playoffs pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
They're keeping their head above water without two of their best defensemen. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I would say they get the 3. I'd say Toronto gets the 2. Boston gets the 1.
Yep.
I would take Pittsburgh over Tampa as one of the wild cards. And
Okay, if Detroit falls, Detroit or Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll
I
see.
don't know. I don't know. I get in these conversations way too much, and they always end up biting me towards the end of the year. But I am going to say yes, they should. The word is should. They should be a team that's in wild card position towards the end of the year. I personally don't think this will be it.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll have to figure out a wager to put out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, obviously it's early, guys. Really early in the season. There's bad teams out there, and they're gonna stay bad, or they're gonna slowly build and fight for wild cards. There's good teams right now that are on top of the world. They're not necessarily gonna miss the playoffs, but they'll come down a little bit. It's important that we take a look at all these teams going forward. But as of right now, I think those are some 4 solid teams that we've looked at today.
Mhm.
You got anything else before we head out for the people out there?
We should talk about Boston next week if they keep it up.
I think next week, I think we talk Boston, and I mean, if we are to throw another team in there, I think we should do a really good job at looking at Winnipeg. I think we need to see if this team is there. They've been a survivor team for years and years and years and years. Somehow they're always mid-pack throughout the season. I think it's going to be very interesting because this team this year, I think, is sink or swim. Like they
Mhm.
will either finish towards the bottom, or I think they might have a good run.
They
And
just locked up their 2 best guys long term. So
I know. I think that does a lot to a
yeah,
locker room. So they might
a lot
be
of
feeling
pressure
it
there
this year, guys. They
now.
really might be feeling it. So there's a little sneak preview, guys.
Mhm.
But other than that, thanks for joining us here, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you guys.